Concho Valley Homepage Severe Weather Special. West Texas residents are no stranger to nature's fury, but no matter how prepared you feel, practice makes perfect.
In the next half hour, we'll show you where we've been, where we are, and where we might be headed in the realm of severe weather with the latest technology designed to keep you informed.
And we have some familiar faces back this year, of course, Josh and I, but the majority of us at the desk have joined the weather team just within the last 6 months here, and we're very proud to have them on our team. So let's go around the table, find out what inspired our newcomers to join the meteorological ranks. Carol, let's start with you.
Well, in case y'all want to know, one cool thing about living in Virginia, which is where I'm from, is that the state experiences 4 seasons, and there's a lot of different weather events that happen. We have snow, we can have some tropical storms, a lot of things go on. And for me, the storm that stuck with me most was Hurricane Isabel back in 2003, and at that point I became obsessed with weather. I constantly watched the Weather Channel when I was young, and I even got these maps from Home Depot to track the hurricanes during hurricane season. And I didn't really think about being a meteorologist until 4th grade, which is still pretty early. My teacher at the time encouraged me to pursue weather, and her encouragement as well as her enthusiasm really stuck with me as I grew up. So I ended up going to college to study atmospheric science, and I was basically set on becoming a meteorologist at a pretty young age. So how about you, Tabon?
I mean, mine was a lot more gradual than that. I feel like it took me kind of a long time to find what my passion really was. I mean, the one thing I knew for certain was that I wanted to be involved in the sciences. That was a guarantee. It was just kind of what aspect. So I started taking my chemistry classes, my math classes, and luckily enough, I had a teacher and he had his PhD in atmospheric science. So that he would incorporate a lot of atmospheric science into the chemistry course, and kind of I started falling in love with it there, and eventually I kind of turned my love for journalism and television and combined the love for science and went down the road for atmospheric science and got my dream job.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, how about you?
So my passion for weather started with, I grew up in Houston. I was always very familiar with weather and the Texas weather, but the one event that basically confirmed my passion for it was Tropical Storm Allison, and I was very encaptured with the coverage of the news coverage that happened with Allison. And that being said, I remember there was one incident. It was when a reporter by the name of Cynthia Cisneros, she was rescuing a couple from a car, and at that moment when I saw that happening, we began to realize that we were in danger because water started coming into our home. And that's one of the things is I always remember the voltage sounds within the walls of those electrical voices in the walls telling us that we needed to evacuate because water was reaching the plugs. My dad was stranded at work, my mom and me were stranded at home, and we had to evacuate, but I was so captured by the news coverage for it, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, was to be a part of the weather, be a part of the news, and making sure people are safe.
That's great. So you had a real personal touch.
Yeah, a personal event. Yeah. It was like it was the news aspect of it, and then being actually affected by it was my confirmation in wanting to go into weather.
That's great.
And the main lesson here, I guess, we're taking is stay in school, kids.
Yeah.
You know, get your education, hardest science, math that you can take. Be up here with us someday, and certainly encourage it.
You don't always know what you want to do right off the bat. Sometimes it takes a while to kind of find what your passion really is, and sometimes it's just taking some classes to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Right, that makes sense.
Thank you all for telling us your stories.
Absolutely, thank y'all. Well, from hurricanes to tornadoes to floods, we've seen it all, and Mother Nature throws almost everything she can at the Concho Valley.
And here are just a few of our local weather stories that made headlines in 2017. We hit the ground running on January 2nd with our first severe storm warning of the year already upon us, and the oddly strong storms only ramped up from there. 2 weeks later, McCulloch County found itself in the crosshairs of an EF2 tornado with estimated winds clocking in at 115 miles an hour.
Heading into spring, we had a line of storms blowing at the end of March. 3 days later, Mother Nature played tricks on April Fool's Day with a wall cloud forming over Rowena. That cell ended up dropping baseball-sized hail in Runnels County.
May 18th and 19th saw a plethora of supercells tracking across the Concho Valley. All told, 50 severe storm warnings and 12 tornado warnings were issued, and yet again, more baseball-sized hail was observed in Runnels County. 3 days later, the dry line had one last hurrah for the month with a few more severe cells thrown our way.
The afternoon of June 23rd saw heat records shattered at 109 degrees, yet it was upstaged a few hours later. One of the most powerful windstorms at San Angelo in decades rolled in from the north, with gusts approaching 100 miles per hour in spots. Damage was reported all across the city, including the partial collapse of some buildings and Shannon Hospital's roofs being torn off in the tempest.
Hurricane Harvey needs no introduction. The costliest tropical cyclone on record only brought a single rain band to the Concho Valley, but while and after the rain poured along the coast, we poured our time and effort into helping our fellow Texans.
In September, we saw heavy rains of our own, with Marietta receiving nearly a foot of it from a single storm. All of that water rushed down into the Lipan Creek and North Concho River, eventually washing out the bridge with Farm Road 381. The heat also returned, setting a local record with 4 of the first 6 days of November topping out in the 90s.
Finally, we rang in the new year, dealing with multiple nights of freezing rain and fog, leading to a winter wonderland in the park and dangerous patches on the highway. 2017 was a tumultuous year in weather and serves to highlight why living in West Texas means you need to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
To actually track severe weather in the Concho Valley, you not only have to have the right people, but the right tools as well. This year, we've added a few more to our arsenal to help us and to help you stay at least one step ahead of the storm.
We have cameras pointed north, south, east, and west, mounted on top of the Cactus Hotel, giving us a full view of incoming storms. As you've seen already, we've used it to great effect during the June 23rd event rolling in from the north.
Late last year, the latest in the next generation of weather satellites went online. GO-16 allows for new high-definition images of developing storm every 5 minutes nationwide and updates every minute over active areas, allowing us to track subtle features that make a big difference in keeping you safe.
And social media has become a crucial player in storm coverage, allowing us to inform and connect with more viewers than ever before. We'll touch upon that more later on in the show.
Coming up after the break, we'll explain how and why behind some of nature's most dangerous weather events. But first, we took to the streets of San Angelo to find out how much you know about severe weather. Do you know which state in the United States sees the most tornadoes?
Oklahoma?
Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
Close.
Nebraska, maybe.
I'm going to go with Kansas just because of the Wizard of Oz.
Texas?
That would be Texas.
Texas. Oh my God, yay!
Which one causes the most deaths? Flash floods, tornadoes, or thunderstorms?
Oh, I would have thought hurricanes.
Tornadoes?
No.
Flash floods.
That's right.
Do you know which one is more severe, a watch or a warning?
A watch.
Are you sure?
I think so.
Are you sure? Yeah. Do you know if a watch or a warning is more severe?
A warning.
There you go. Good job.
Do you know the difference between what a watch and a warning is?
Warning means it's inevitable, it's happening. A watch means get ready because it may happen.
I think a warning is worse.
Good job.
It means it's happening.
If a tornado's coming, do you know where you should go?
At my grandma's house in the basement.
That's a good answer. A basement's a good place to go if there's a tornado.
Let's face it, in life, there is no free lunch. Who can you trust?
You can trust the NFCC, the nation's largest nonprofit network of credit counseling and financial education organizations. Come learn with us at nfcc.org.
Temp 102, what's going on?
He's becoming septic.
Infections can lead to a deadly chain reaction called sepsis.
Bed ready, let's move
If you know the risks, can spot the symptoms, and act fast, then you can get ahead of sepsis. Learn more at cdc.gov/sepsis.
Welcome back. It's time to dive into how and why some severe weather events occur. First up, thunderstorms. Our local National Weather Service office issued nearly 240 severe storm warnings alone last year. Let's take a look at how thunderstorms form. We have the sun on a hot day, and that's going to warm the surface of the earth. And when the surface of the earth warms, we're going to start to see warm air rising, and that's known as updraft. And while this is rising, we're seeing the warm air bringing up moisture with it to the tops of the atmosphere, and that's going to bring droplets inside of the clouds. And those droplets are going to begin to grow and in turn become heavier as that cloud rises. We're going to start to see descending of cold air, and that's what essentially causes rain, and this is known as downdraft. The updraft and the downdraft combined is how those thunderstorm cells form and form those cumulonimbus clouds. Going into that cloud, we're seeing positive and negative charges combining with each other, and when we get enough of a negative charge inside of that cloud, it's going to combine with the positive charge at the surface of the earth, and that's what causes those lightning strikes, is those charges combining together. And essentially with that lightning, what we hear is the sound wave, in turn called thunder, and we see the lightning before we hear the thunder because light travels faster than sound. So what does this mean for you? If we get a thunderstorm watch, what's happening is this is ingredients that are favorable for thunderstorm conditions, winds 58 miles per hour and above, and or hail an inch in diameter or larger. So what this means is make plans and pay attention for warnings to come. And when we get that warning, this means these conditions are happening. All those favorable conditions are in place right now with those winds and the hail. So what this means is seek shelter and be sure to tune into local media for further updates.
Well, winds are one thing, but hail is another. If you ever wondered what it was like for an entire baseball team to aim for your windshield, drive around West Texas sometime during storm season. Let's dig into a little bit on how hail forms within a thunderstorm. First, we'll have our thunderstorm form right here over San Angelo. In this thunderstorm, we have two components. One, an updraft, which brings warm, moist air into the storm, feeding energy into the storm, and then a downdraft, which helps to ventilate the storm and pushes rain-cooled air out the side of the storm. Now, when you have an updraft and a downdraft, you have a pretty stable storm, and they kind of work in tandem with each other. You'll get a chunk of rain that'll come up the updraft, reach the freezing level, and turn into a piece of ice, then get brought back down by the downdraft and grab a little bit more moisture, but the updraft catches it and pulls it right back up. And you continue this balancing act between the two until your piece of ice becomes so heavy that it can't be sustained by the updraft anymore and falls to the ground as a piece of hail, causing damage. Now, we measure hail with common household objects. Let's say you have a dime. Well, that's when your hail will be about 0.6 inches in diameter. You go up to an inch, and that's when we issue a severe thunderstorm warning. That's about the size of a quarter. You can have hail get as big as golf balls, 1.75 inches in diameter, up to baseballs, 2.75 inches in diameter when it really starts causing damage. You can even have hail as big as a softball at 4.5 inches in diameter. And once you get above golf balls, that's when that hail can really start causing some considerable damage.
From pounding hail to rushing water, the driving force of flash flooding cannot be underestimated. We're often too concerned with severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, and wind damage, but we fail to realize the dangers of flash floods. A flash flood is the deadliest form of severe weather, injuring and killing 100 people per year in the United States. They can occur suddenly, and no matter where you are in the country, they can happen anywhere. The important thing to realize, the difference is between a flash flood watch and a flash flood warning. A flash flood watch is when conditions are favorable for heavy rainfall. This means that flash flooding is possible. Always be prepared and make sure you have an action plan ready in case a flash flood warning occurs. A flash flood warning is when a flood is occurring or imminent. Take immediate action and to make sure you're on higher ground. If you are driving on roadways, it's easy to say that you can drive through 6 inches of water, but with flash flooding, 6 inches can possibly be 2 feet, therefore causing your car to sweep away. And that's what we always say, turn around, don't drown.
Finally, the granddaddy of all West Texas severe weather events, tornadoes. Texas averages over 150 of them every year, well above any other state. We've gone over thunderstorms already, but beneath certain storms, you can sometimes have winds moving at different speeds and directions. Think of eddies in a river that kind of tend to spin up when you plunge your paddle through it. Same sort of fluid mechanics at work here. That's called wind shear, and that helps create your spin up in the atmosphere. But of course, you notice this is more of a row of air rather than that vertical column with a tornado's distinct shape. Enter that updraft that we mentioned before. It basically pushes that rotating air upright. In fact, where that wall cloud is, that is where the updraft tends to be most intense. Now, not all wall clouds rotate. You should very much keep that in mind. But when it does, that's where you look for that telltale sign of a potential tornado. That rotating column stretches out and intensifies from a funnel cloud to a full-fledged twister, sucking up air and debris when it gets close enough to the ground. More air rushes in to replace the air vacuumed into the sky, and you can tend to get a good cycle going from there for long-track tornadoes. Of course, folks, you know the drill by now. A tornado watch means that conditions are ripe to see them form out of severe storms, and you should always keep your phone charged and handy to receive alerts, or if the situation does become more dire, send for help. A tornado warning means that one has either been spotted or is heavily hinted at on radar, whether detecting a rotating storm or even seeing signs of debris being thrown into the radar beam's path. We have that ability here to show that. It's worth noting, by the way, that wind, hail, and tornadoes are criteria for severe thunderstorms, but lightning is not. Of course, if you already have one heck of a light show going, chances are the storm is approaching strong to severe levels anyway. Either way, seek shelter immediately and, of course, wait for the storm to pass before taking stock of any damage.
Now, we usually don't think of this event as severe weather, but it constantly plagues West Texas. It negatively affects crop yields and livestock and has caused lakes to disappear. I'm talking about drought, and those dry conditions can also bring about another hot threat. I talked to a regional fire coordinator to learn more.
In 2011, Texas experienced its driest year in state history. 2018 is shaping up to be another dry year, with total rainfall values below the yearly average. Here in the Concho Valley, drought conditions are currently between abnormally dry and moderate drought conditions. Those dry conditions can also cause wildfires. I met with KSAN-TV, a regional fire coordinator for the Texas Forest Service, to discuss what elements help fuel wildfires.
It's going to be the high winds and low humidity. So when our RH is 20% or lower, we're going to be in a critical to high fire danger. And then once we get winds that are higher and elevated, it's going to drive and push those fires a lot quicker than most of the time.
A red flag warning means conditions are favorable for the development and rapid spreading of wildfires. Weather criteria to issue warnings varies with each National Weather Service office. Wind speed, relative humidity, and afternoon high temperatures are also considered when issuing fire weather watches and warnings. But still, human error is the #1 cause of wildfires.
So most wildfires are caused by human error. Whether it be burning brush piles, dragging chains not properly hooked up to your vehicle, throwing out cigarettes. So just be diligent of what you're doing and your surroundings.
If you're in imminent danger of a wildfire, KSAN-TV has this tip.
You want to call 911 and then stay calm, and if the rescuers tell you to do something, you want to listen to their instructions and go ahead and take those actions.
Reporting, I'm Kara Thompson.
Coming up, we'll show you how to stay safe from Mother Nature's wrath no matter where you are when it hits. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Solar Generation Road Trip. Solar energy is working for America now, saving us money, creating new jobs, and giving our world a brighter future. Welcome to the Solar Generation.
I sent him a text. He texts me back and say, "Who dis?"
The next few weeks, you just made fun of me, like would answer the door and say, "Who dis?"
Who dis?
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org.
We're proud to bring you the latest updates on severe weather as it happens.
But when it strikes, you are your first line of defense.
The info we can give you about the storm is all for naught if you don't know how to stay safe from it wherever you find yourself.
From sitting on the couch to driving on the highway.
When you hear the warning, will you know what to do?
Let's say you're lounging around the house on a lazy Sunday that's about to become a lot less lazy outside. For one thing, let's nip this in the bud. Opening your windows to equalize the pressure before a tornado hits is a complete myth. Do not waste precious time. Mother Nature simply does not care. Get to the basement if you have one, or at least the lowest level of your house, as far away from windows and outside-facing walls as possible. Better yet, find or install a storm shelter near your home, though most units even start at $5,000. Start at, and I doubt many local residents have made that investment. Another helpful tip, don't forget to put on your shoes when particularly dangerous situations arise in severe weather. You really don't want to be caught having to possibly clamber over debris and broken glass.
Now, if you live in an apartment complex, you might have to follow a few extra steps depending on which floor you live on. In the event of a tornado, if you live on one of the upper floors, make sure you get to low ground. You can take refuge underneath of an interior staircase or in your downstairs neighbor's apartment, and maybe even underground, parking garage. Make sure to bring a buffer such as thick blankets or pillows, and I'll get into their use in just a bit. If you do have a first floor apartment, make sure to move into an interior windowless room that's in the center of the apartment. Usually this is a bathroom, pantry, or closet. And once you find a safe place, make sure to crouch down on the floor and cover yourself with those pillows and blankets, or even your mattress. This will create a buffer between you and any type of falling debris.
Mobile homes and RVs are particularly vulnerable locations when it comes to tornadoes and strong winds. They can be easily overturned even if they're structured to the ground. If you find yourself in a mobile home or RV during a severe weather situation, the best thing to do is to evacuate immediately and move to a building with a strong foundation. If time is of the essence and there is no foundation available near you, the next best thing is to take cover in a ditch or a low-lying area, protecting your head and your neck with your arms.
We take extra precautions when preparing for severe weather at home, but at times there is the possibility that we may be traveling in our vehicles while severe weather strikes. Being in your vehicle during a tornado is one of the most least desirable places to be. When a tornado is imminent, usually during a tornado warning, it's important to know that your vehicle is not a safe place. First, get out of your vehicle and seek refuge in the first floor of a building. But let's say you're on 277 driving from Cristobal to El Dorado and there are no buildings around. The next safest place is to take cover in a ditch or low-lying area. The only time to remain in your vehicle is if you are in a hailstorm. Hail falls at unsafe speeds and can cause injuries to those in its path. Be sure to drive to a safe location far away from the road.
Storms can even strike while you're at school or on the job. When they do, it is important to follow the posted tornado plan that your school or work has in place. If it doesn't, however, be sure to stay calm. You're going to be okay. Don't panic, because when you panic, you can't think clearly. Move to the basement or lowest level of the building that your work or school is in, and be sure to find a center room once you get there. If you find a center room, be sure to crouch down and cover your head. Most of the injuries that happen within a storm are from flying debris striking people in the head or in the neck. If you follow these steps, you should stay safe from the storm if it strikes you at your work or school.
Throughout our lifetime, it's almost certain that we will be affected by severe weather. When we get older, reacting and preparing for it can be somewhat of a challenge. I took a visit to the Baptist retirement community and spoke to the directors on measures to take when severe weather strikes. Here's what they had to say.
Baptist Retirement Community encompasses about 100 acres, a city within the city, so to speak. We own all the streets. We have independent living homes. We're about 240 people that live independently.
With a large population potentially affected by severe weather in a small area, a quick response is vital to workers at the Baptist Retirement Community.
If there's an actual warning that hits for San Angelo, then we're starting to take immediate precautions with our residents.
Along with the preparation of a storm action plan, it is also important to drill and practice those safety measures.
The last drill we had was last year was an evacuation drill, and we prepared for actual wildfire. So we actually had residents for different parts of the campus. We brought out buses. We have agreements with folks downtown, so they brought in transportations and buses, and we actually loaded personnel and staff and residents onto these buses.
Earlier in the segment, Dan and Josh discussed the severe thunderstorm that happened last June. The Baptist retirement community did suffer some damage from this particular storm. We pulled together as a team here, and with all the training and experience we have from practicing these drills, we were able to make sure everyone was safe and sound. And for advice that you can follow at home,
Get to know your neighbors. It's just a good West Texas thing to do. It's a good neighborly thing to do. Know your resources of people that you need to reach out to, and people that may be able to reach out to you if there's an emergency situation. Nobody wants to be alone in those situations.
With a storm action plan in place, you can be prepared to help those in need.
Hands are unity.
Having a safety kit handy just in case severe weather strikes is always a good idea. Here's some of the essentials to keep in that kit with you. Water and a canned food supply for 3 days. And with water, 1 gallon of water per person per day is the recommended amount. Another thing is a battery-powered radio so you can be up to date on those weather alerts, as well as a flashlight and extra batteries just in case the power goes out. And lastly, don't forget any prescription medications, and keep a first aid kit in your pack as well.
No matter where you are, be sure to know what your plan is during a severe weather situation.
Knowing in advance what to do, whether you're in a house, apartment, mobile home, car, at work, or at school, can save your life. We'll be right back.
It's the final week of our grand opening celebration at all 17 locations and last chance at 36 months of no-interest financing and big deals. Like the solid wood queen bed, just $388. Or this top grain leather sofa, lowest price ever, $699. And our most popular reclining sofa at just $499. Huge savings at all 17 locations. Home Zone, style for everyone that anyone can afford.
Welcome back. Now that you know how our storms form and how to stay safe during them, let's talk about what you should do if you get hit by one. First, make sure you are safe and be sure to wear closed-toe shoes. That will keep you from puncturing your foot on damage. If you find out you have sustained damage, the city has a way for you to report that at damage@COSATX.us. Steve Mild, the emergency manager of Tom Green County, says this helps with disaster declarations.
I go through those pictures, try to determine where it looks like the worst damage is, and then that's where I send my damage assessment teams out. Those damage assessment teams get the numbers that we need in the different categories that I have to send to the state of Texas in the damage summary outline. Those numbers are then used to tally the amount of damage there is, because before we can do a local disaster declaration here in Tom Green County, we have to have at least $375,000 worth of damage.
Also maintains warning sirens placed within the city limits that sound when severe weather threatens. But plans are for these to be phased out over time.
Phasing out our local sirens makes notified of severe weather all the more critical. Make sure you have at least 2 ways to receive the latest weather alerts, be it a NOAA weather radio or an app on your phone. We recommend downloading our free Concho Valley homepage app where you can configure not only the counties but also the types of warnings that you want to receive from us.
With the advent of Facebook Live and related social media advances, we've made incredible strides in getting the word out about storms. We can now take viewer questions in real time with hyperlocal forecasts as the storms develop. And we can send viewer storm reports to the National Weather Service to get a better picture. In other words, obtaining ground truth on a cell. And if we're not in the studio, we've got you covered with some of the more urgent warnings set up to automatically post to Facebook and Twitter as soon as they are issued.
As we've stated before, no matter the tool you use to stay informed, you are your first line of defense against the elements. We hope that this last half hour or so has gotten you curious enough to download an app, buy a weather radio, or simply do some further research of your own on the science behind severe weather.
We also recommend signing up for a Storm Spotter training class to better identify just what kind of storm you're seeing. The National Weather Service would certainly thank you for taking the initiative. For a complete schedule, visit weather.gov/SJT.
You can count on us to help keep you safe this season, as with all seasons in the Concho Valley. On behalf of us here at KLST and KSAN, good night, and keep a weather eye on the horizon.